Hello. So in this tutorial, I'm gonna show you how to make like a barrier, like a wall that your player can't get through until they like meet a certain objective. This is like commonly used in games. This is mainly gonna be a material thing. There's some blueprint functionality, which is when you get close to the wall, it starts glowing around the player. So it like reacts to the player. I think that adds a bit to it, but it's optional. You don't have to do it. Just gonna show you how to make this wall in the material, and we'll go from there. First things first, I'm gonna delete this. I'm gonna save it, and we're gonna create a new material. So I'm gonna go into materials, like into this one, and we're gonna create a new material. I'm gonna call m_barrier. We're gonna want to make this translucent because we want to see through the barrier, and we're gonna make it unlit because we don't want light to affect this material. Let's start with the hex pattern that we showed. This is actually pretty simple. This is gonna be like a texture, so let's bring in a texture sample parameter, so you can change this parameter to whatever texture you want. I'm gonna name this just texture, and we're gonna choose the hex grid texture, hex style texture that comes with the engine. This is actually in the starter content. You can add this to your project. If you don't have starter content, just click add and then go to add feature or content pack and then choose starter content. So if we plug this, if we look at this texture, actually, you can see that the green channel is actually just a mask of the hex. The rest are like different things. This, I think, is the specular. We don't actually need that. We just need the green channel, which has the mask. So we're gonna, if we just plug this into the opacity, we can see that already we have this hex grid. And if we want to make it like a, if we just plug it to emissive, it's just gonna be white. But we want to make it a color, so hold down V and click and add a color parameter, and we're gonna set it to like a blue or something. And if we multiply this by the green channel and plug it to emissive, already we have like a nice hex grid, but it's not glowing, which is a shame. So what we can do is just multiply it by a scalar, and we just click down and type in boost, call this boost. So if we add a scalar parameter, we can control how bright the hex grid is. We'll just save this material. We'll make a material instance, call it mi barrier, and we're gonna plop in a basic shape, a cube, and we're gonna scale it to make it look like a wall. Just make it like thin and big, like this. Okay. Plop in the material, and already we can see the first issue. The hex tiles, if we keep scaling it, they scale with the material, which is not what we want. We actually want a wall that we can put in any size, but the texture will stay the same. So to do that, we have a node called object scale, which gives you the scale of the object on all axes, which is X, Y, and Z. If we take that and we multiply it by the texture coordinate node, and we want to scale the wall in the X and the Z axis. No, sorry, the Y and the Z axis. So if we make this a flow 2, because this is also a flow 2, and we multiply it, save, and we look at these. Now, if we scale this wall, it's gonna stay the same no matter how much we scale it. We do want to control the tiling, however. We just need to add two parameters, which the first one we'll call uTiling, and the second one, again, hold down S and click to add a scalar parameter. V tiling, UNV tiling, and we're gonna make a float 2 again. So just copy this here and multiply this by the texture coordinate node and save it. And what happened? Oh, because this is 0, give it a default value of 1, of course, or whatever else you want. And if we go now into our wall and we bring in the material instance, we have these parameters now, so we can control the U tiling, the V tiling, and the boost, how bright the hex grid is. So I'm just gonna set them all to default. The reason there's no space between the tiles is because of this opacity mask. Everything between the tiles is set to 0, and so we won't see it. So what we can do is actually use this colors alpha channel to fill in the space between the hex tiles. So how we do that, we can use either an add or a max node will work. I'll use an add node and add it to this grid. And if I plug this into opacity, of course you need to have the alpha value of this color set to something other than 0, because we don't want the color between the hex tiles to be boosted. We can just add in the color again. So just plug this in, plug this to emissive color, and then we have this color between the hex tiles, and we can control it again with the parameter instance, with the instance of like the alpha channel. So we can decide how bright we want the space between the tiles to be, and we can change the color a bit to whatever we want. This looks nice, so I'm gonna keep it like that, and that's the first step. Basically the most basic form of the wall is done, but I'm gonna add a few features that will make it a bit nicer. So the first one is we want to add in like lines where it intersects with the geometry. So to do that, we're gonna use the depth fade node. So the depth fade node gives you the distance to the nearest surface. So the distance will start at like 100 here, but we can set that to a parameter value. So let's set it to fade distance and set it to like 200. We're gonna power it. So if we power it, it's gonna give it, make it a bit more sharp, make the gradient more sharp, and we're gonna again add a fade exponent parameter here, set it to like 5. We're gonna use a name reroute node just to keep things more organized. I'm gonna call it depth fade line. Over here, before we multiply with the texture, let's move this a bit. We're gonna take the depth fade line and we're gonna use a max node and max between it and the texture and then multiply. So we actually have it backwards. So it's an easy fix. All you gotta do is 1 minus this. And then this looks much better, I think. Let's see. Yeah. So we have this line wherever it intersects with the geometry. And we can control this with the parameters that we set. So we have the fade exponent. If we set this higher, the higher we set this, the more, the less distance this will travel. If we set it to like 40, 41, I'm gonna keep it at that and set the fade distance like a bit higher. Next, we're gonna comment this, put it aside, comment it as depth fade or something. Depth fade line. And next step is to animate the texture, I think, which would look much better. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna take this and we're gonna take it to the side and rearrange the nodes a bit and add the name reroute node. Again, call it texture and comment this as texture So we have the texture separated, and we're gonna do this. We're gonna animate the grid so it pulses. We're gonna use the sine remapped node. Sine remapped. So what this does is it's a sine wave, but the values they don't go from -1 to 1, they go from value 1 to value 2. So value 1 will be something like 0 to. You can make this a parameter if you want. I don't think it's strictly necessary. So hold down 1 to get a constant and type in 2, for example, 2. Put these in the sine, and for the phase, we're gonna use the time node to animate it, and we're gonna multiply it by a parameter called pulse speed, and the pulse speed will be 1. Multiply this, put it in the sine phase, and we're gonna use the same boost node that we had before. So copy this, put this once we multiply this, and again name reroute node, call it pulse boost, and comment this pulse boost, and instead of this boost we're going to use the pulse boost. There we go. And now we can see that the grid lines are animated. Let's see how it looks in Wold. Yeah, looks pretty good. And we also get animation on the lines. If you don't like that, multiply this by the texture before we put the depth fade line in. So like over here. But I think it looks good. So this already looks pretty good. I would call this pretty much done, unless you want to add in the player glow. So if we just play and go next to the wall, it's not gonna glow. To add in the player glow, we're gonna have to use blueprints and dynamic instances in Blueprint. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna use the sphere mask node, sphere mask. So what this does is it actually calculates a 3D sphere mask and projects it onto your material. We're gonna use absolute world position, which is world position. Plug it in, and the second value will be a vector parameter. So hold down V and click and call this player position. The default value will be 0. That's fine. Plug this into the sphere mask, and the radius we can again use a parameter, call it player glow radius, set it to like 200. I'm just gonna set the hardness to 0.8. You can set it to a parameter if you want. And this is gonna be multiplied by the alpha of the player position. We're gonna use this to mask this effect out. I'll just show you what I mean later. I'll just set it like this. And now this, we're gonna put it here, and we're gonna call it name reroute node player glow. Call it player glow. Again, comment it. Very important to keep your materials documented. Okay, so how are we going to use this player glow? So the first thing we want to do is we want it to affect the opacity. We're gonna take the player glow. I'm gonna max it with the already existing opacity output, and just plug it into opacity. You're not going to see any changes, that's fine. And the next step is to add in this player glow into the emissive. So again, we're going to do another max node, and we're going to take this player glow, but we need to multiply it by the color, otherwise it's just going to be white. So to add this into the color, just multiply it by the color, and we don't see any difference at all. And what we're gonna do just to see if it works is we're going to look here. You see the location of this wall, it's this. So we're gonna take that and we're just gonna put it in manually to the player position parameter, and we're gonna put in the alpha to 1. Okay, so we kind of do see a glow, but it's if I move it around you can see it, but it's not strong enough. So what we want to do is we want to boost it. So let's actually boost it, and we're just gonna use the plain boost, because if we use the pulse boost, let me show you, it's gonna pulse. So you see it's pulsing. We don't want that, we just want to boost it. So just use the boost parameter. Let's see how it looks. Yeah, okay, so already it's really strong, really, but we can see that if we go into the material instance and move it around, it moves like according to the wall position. So we can do the player glow radius, lower it a bit. Let's actually add a power node. Player glow exponent. So if you go to the player glow exponent now and we lower it, we can control how the glow looks. So I'm just gonna set it at 1.5. That looks pretty good. So the next step would be to control this via blueprints. Let's go into blueprints, new blueprint class, actor, and call it BP blocking wall 2. Let's add in a cube. Call this wall, doesn't really matter. Set it as the default scene root because we want to be able to scale this actor and have it scale everything else that's parented to it. Let's make it look like a wall like we did before. Scale it at 0.1 in the X direction. Looks pretty good. You can scale it even lower if you want. And put in the material that we created before. So MI barrier, like the material instance. Plop it in. And we already have this wall, beautiful, beautiful wall. And add in a sphere collision. We're gonna use this sphere collision to detect when the player is near the wall. So we don't always want to track the player. If they're not even close to the wall, we don't even care. So just keep it performant. Set this to like 150 in radius. And that's all you need in terms of scene components. So we're gonna add in to the sphere, we're gonna add in 2 events, begin overlap and end overlap. Okay, on begin play, what we're gonna do is we're gonna take the wall and we're gonna create a dynamic material instance, and we're gonna select the MI barrier material, this one, and we're gonna make it a parameter. Promote to variable, not a parameter, a variable. Promote to variable and call it, I don't know, mat inst. We don't really material instance. And from here, what we can do at any time is to set vector parameter value, and the parameter name is player position, as we named it before. And we can make linear color or a color, whatever you want. And I'm going to set this alpha to 0 at begin play. This means that the effect of the player glow won't be visible unless we turn this alpha to 1. On begin overlap, cast to third person blueprint or whatever is that your player class is, or however else you want to detect that whatever you overlapped with is the player. And we're gonna do 2 things. We're gonna save this to a variable. Call it player, and we're gonna set a new Boolean variable to track player. We're gonna set this to true, and in the other instance, when the overlap ends, we're gonna set this to false. Next, if we need to track the player on tick, I know doing things on tick is bad, but since we only do this when the player is near the wall, it shouldn't hurt performance too much. And what we need to do is simply set the player position variable. Alpha is 1, and we need to get player, and get actor position, actor location. Split it up, set the X, Y, and Z. And that's it. Oh, hold on. This needs the material instance, of course. Yeah, that's pretty much it. So now we just delete this. And since we made this blueprint correctly, if we just plop it into the world, we can scale it however we want, as we did before. And already we see a problem here. I think it's because I left this up. I think it's because I left this parameter set, so don't do that. Now we can also adjust the sphere to make it like encompass the wall. And let's see if it works. Go near the wall and it's glowing. Pretty neat. And that's it. It's pretty much done. Hope you found this tutorial useful. If you have any questions, comment down below. If you found this helpful, leave a like and check out my other videos on my channel where I'm developing an action game, which is actually where this is going once I finish recording. Thank you.